What is good, y'all? I'm here to talk about the buffs and changes I've made for Enamorus. I promise I'll explain the contrary removal in just a second. I know a lot of people are going to whine and moan about that. I promise I'll explain my thought process behind it and why it's actually for the better and why it makes the Pokemon much more interesting and fun to use in just a second. But before I get into explaining the thought process behind that or any of the other ability choices, or most importantly, the move interactions, of which there are a lot, I recommend you pause the video, read the description if you're new here. I've got a lot of important disclaimers and bullet points in the description that'll give you a lot of context that you need to understand the ROM hack better. And then when you're done with reading that, you can also, after this video, don't click off yet, but after this video, you can check out the description down below for the Google Sheet. I also have other videos you can check out. All of those are super fun and important, but most importantly, I would say, if you have yet to do so, even if you're a returning viewer, is read that Google Sheet with the move changes, because I've got it all organized into categories. You can click on them, it takes you to that category, and honestly, I recommend you just scroll in order. I ordered it intuitively, so you can just kind of get a grasp on all these new move categories. But yeah, Enamorus. So no more contrary. So two reasons. Number one, there is a Draco Meteor variant for almost, actually literally every single type. Sometimes I even try to have two for each type, ideally. Some types obviously don't have two of every type, like Fairy, Psychic, Fighting, and Dark only have one. But every other type has two. So, I don't like that. That's already broken, and they're all 140 power, all 100% accuracy. So in vanilla, they're 130, and first of all, they're already on like Pokemon that suck, that would otherwise suck without it at least. And Enamorus, only has superpower in vanilla. Superpower now works like Draco Meteor, so it gives you +2 attack with contrary. So that's already a lot more broken than vanilla contrary superpower. Much more broken, especially in an in-game context, right? So in competitive, contrary, it's still very strong, but at the very least, it's kind of counteracted by like the fact that it's a real human being playing around it, right? So you can kind of like actually, like the AI, for example, will not play around contrary. He'll let you get as many boosts as you want. You slap a choice scarf on, you click superpower, you win the fucking fight. It's brainless, it's stupid, I hate it. I like all the Pokemon in this ROM hack to be multifaceted. I like them to have cool dimensions to using them. I like them to all have cool use cases over one another. For example, in a Pokemon with 2 different forms, I choose the abilities and the stats on the forms to be worth using over one another. And I also pick all 3 ability slots to make sense and also be worth using over one another as well. So you're supposed to be switching between Airlight, Ruthless, and Wind Rider, and Multiscale and Guardian Gale, right? So you basically have 5 abilities on this guy. So all of the genies, I picked Airlight for all of them, every single one, mostly because a lot of their physical flying moves are like kind of limited based on like what, the design of them, right? They don't make much sense to learn like most flying moves physically. They still have good enough ones. They have Dive Bomb, Sky Attack, Fly, Acrobatics, like that's plenty. But it's just cool to get stronger options with Air Late, and it also just makes sense. Their whole thing's about like flying and clouds. Speaking of, all of the incarnate forms are on literal clouds. They are literally flying on the wind. So I've given them all Wind Rider, which is even more buffed in this ROM hack. So the AI will be using a lot. You're immune to Blizzard, Hurricane, Absolute Zero, Aeroblast, Heat Wave. All of these strong moves you're completely immune to. The priority ones aren't a big deal for the player. Leaf Storm, not a big deal because the AI doesn't really abuse Draco Meteor type moves very well, but stuff like Blizzard, Hurricane, Absolute Zero, Aeroblast, Heat Wave, those are the big ones. Air Slash as well. Those are the very important ones to be immune to. And you also get a free attack boost for switching into those as well. Not to mention you can also do some manual Tailwind stuff with incarnate forms on all of the genies with Wind Rider and use physical attacking sets, which is really cool as well. And then, so what I've chosen to give them over contrary, right? Because another thing is, they have Radiant Outburst. They have Fairy type. It's basically Flare Cannon, right? They have fucking contrary Flare Cannon. Like, no, man, I'm not doing that, right? So I give some stuff contrary when I have absolutely no other options to make that Pokemon fun to use in like the very end of the game, or just to give them 3 unique ability slots. So for example, Gumshoos. There's a lot of pure normal types. It's hard to balance those. What else? Sudowoodo, contrary fits really well and is really cool because it's kind of hard to think of like super fitting buffs that like make him fun for the very end of the game. So stuff like that is cool because you get that Pokemon at the beginning of the game and they progress as the game goes on. So you unlock the contrary options as the game goes on. But with a legendary like this, like, what's the fun in that, man? Yeah, wow, it's so fucking cool. I'm at the end of the game, I catch a fucking genie, now I click contrary and I win the game. I never have to fucking even bother with the Therian form. I never have to bother with thinking, literally ever. I just click the Choice Scarf button and I win the game. The only thing that'll stop a contrary, incarnate form would be like fucking, I don't know, Quick Claw, Focus Sash, priority moves. That's basically it, and that's not gonna, you know, you can still at least get like 2 to 3 kills brainlessly before one of those things is gonna force you out. So, or you can easily, you know, bait the Quick Claw Mon, you know, kill the lead, bait the Quick Claw Mon as the next Pokemon, and then, you know, you can get like the rest of the 4 kills by just clicking the button. It's very lame, very, very unskilled, very not rewarding, not fun at all. If you like that type of playstyle, go crazy, but I'm not encouraging that. I'm not going to balance a Pokemon around that gimmick when it's an in-game Pokemon to begin with. There's no payoff, right? It's not like, oh, you know, I have Sudowoodo and it's fun to use, and you know, it's my boy from the beginning of the game, and then he gets the contrary options as the game goes on. It's not like that. So enough about the ranting, right? Enough ranting about contrary. If you're 5 minutes in and you're still bitching about it, I don't know why you're watching, honestly. But yeah, Ruthless is really fucking cool and fits very well. So if you go to the Pokedex and stuff, I mean, in general, right? Like, Enamorus is the love-hate Pokemon. It's not just a love Pokemon. It's a love-hate, and the Pokedex word for word literally describes it as leaving out a descends upon any who treats life with disrespect. It metes out wrathful, ruthless punishment, right? So very, very cool fitting ability. Obviously, something like Cute Charm is horrible in this type of context. I would never want to encourage like a luck-based ability like that. I like my abilities to be consistent and reliable. So Airlaid has tons of really strong options. Wind Rider is a good ability to switch to, either if you want to do some Tailwind sweeping, or which is also like, that's also somewhat, I don't know, man. It's so many cooler ways you can sweep instead of just Contrary, Choice Scarf, blah, 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 boring bullshit. But yeah, Airlaid, very, very strong with Hyper Beam and Giga Impact and Hyper Voice and Body Slam and all these cool moves, which I'll get into. Double Edge. But specifically Hyper Beam and Giga Impact are 180 base power Draco Meteor, flying type Draco Meteors basically, which is very, very, very fun and strong with Airlaid. So you can switch to that when you need a really strong flying move that's spammable, because Ruthless Aeroblast is level 60, so that's also at the very end of the game. And Ruthless Aeroblast is Aeroblast and Radiant Edge are basically in Soul Crush, right? All 3 of those moves, and even Temper Flare, all 4 of those moves are Wicked Blow variants, which mean that they are 80 power, guaranteed crit, but they can't be used twice in a row. So because of Incarnate Form speed stat and its speed tier, you're going to be using Choice Scarf, you know, to outspeed faster Pokemon most of the time, or, you know, Tailwind or Quick Claw or Agility, or actually, yeah, they have agility. So stuff like that you'd be using to outspeed. Also, technically, like Scale Shot, you could try to use maybe, but yeah. So point is, Ruthless, also very fitting flavor-wise, and it also boosts. On top of those 4 Wicked Blow variants, it also boosts. Like for example, I gave them Soul Crush earlier, right? Because I want to encourage the lower physical attack set of Incarnate Form. Wind Rider also encourages the lower physical attack stat, but having that level 50 Soul Crush and Temper Flare, you know, TM, it's 180 base power fire move, which is much stronger than Heat Wave, 135 special attack. Heat Wave with Ruthless is 135 power. However, Heat Wave can be clicked multiple times in a row, although I would say the not multiple times in a row effect mostly only matters for stab moves, because if it's a coverage move, you're probably going to be switching moves anyway, or switching out after. Not always, depends on the boss fight, but that's like kind of the general vibe going on there. Other Ruthless options are Solar Beam with Power Herb or in the Sun, which is kind of cool actually. I just realized you could do like a Sun, Heat Wave, Solar Beam, Ruthless set. That's kind of sick actually, because you get the boost on the Sun boost on Heat Wave and Solar Beam, and they're both Ruthless boosted as well. That's kind of sick. First Impression and Lash Out. And then you also have Doom Desire, and Misty Explosion is a very niche option. It's borderline useless, right, because the game is balanced around nuzlockes. It's just there for flavor. But you know, the AI, if they ever have this, it's going to be crazy with that Misty Explosion. That goes super hard with the Ruthless. Nothing switches in on that. You have to use Sash, but yeah, or just outspeed it or something. But yeah, what else is there? I mean, obviously there are things that can live that. By the way, I'm exaggerating. Tons of like bulky poisons can probably swallow it, but Doom Desire is pretty cool. A little niche, but it's pretty cool with Ruthless. It's a guaranteed crit. Also, if you get like Terra Dark, you know, Lash Out and Doom Desire go really cool or really hard or really. I can't speak English, bro. They go very hard. And then Sky Attack is also really cool. You can use Sky Attack with Wind Rider or Ruthless because it gives you +1 attack and accuracy now, so that's really useful. Also, Springtide Storm is a really good, cheesy priority flinch move, exclusive distribution. It heals you, so that's pretty great with multi-scale on the Therian form. So I would like to, honestly, I like the Therian form a lot here. I think he's really cool. I love bulky Pokemon, but especially, like, I don't know, I like turtles, I like reptiles. And I think having a soft shell turtle with like a snake on its back is just a cool fucking design, and I like the colors and stuff. But yeah, Therian form, people hate on it, but I like this guy. Loki might be my favorite Therian form of all of them. But yeah, very bulky. I chose multi-scale because it's got like that snake back, and like soft shell turtles have like, you know, scales and stuff. I was gonna go with Shell Armor or Intimidate. Intimidate makes a lot of sense because of the Pokedex and the personality, and Shell Armor is like, haha, they're a turtle, even though they literally have no shell, which is why I opted not to give Shell Armor, by the way. It's because they don't actually have a shell. I think Multiscale is really cool, though, and it's also nice with, like, Roost or Wish or Springtide Storm or Draining Kiss or all these healing moves, so that's always fun. Even just defensive, like multi-scale Quick Claw, right? You switch it in, take any hit you need to tank, and then you Quick Claw, blow something up with multi-scale, or you can do Tailwind, multi-scale, a check button, all types of fun ways to abuse multi-scale. Obviously, Airlate is good on the Therian form too, because it's just as strong, especially as the Incarnate form, so you can still do the Hyper Beam, Hyper Voice stuff. And then Guardian Gale is just a nice little niche option once in a while to switch to. Guardian Gale essentially makes it so you are neutral to electric, ice, and rock. So you're neutral to those 3 types, which is useful. You know, it lets you 1v1 more things. Fairy Flying that isn't weak to those 3 types is definitely useful defensive traits. You can also do some coil stuff, you know, which is pretty kind of cool. I give them coil because of the whole snake, the fake snake they have on their back, or tail, I guess. Yeah, Dreamy Kiss is pretty cool at Sky Attack. That gives you an accuracy boost to then not miss the sleep-inducing Dreamy Kiss. You also have Dive Bomb, which is flying type high jump kick, so that's a good physical option outside of Aerolate moves. Acro is obviously good as Acro. You know, you could do like some Wind Rider, Sash, Tailwind, Acrobatics stuff. That's really good. You know, you get +2 speed, +1 attack, and then 110 power Acrobatics. That's very, very good. Keep in mind though, if you do that, you have to use Soul Crush or Hoodwink because you can't use Play Rough or you'll kill yourself for Fairy Stab. But you know, there's tons of scenarios where you can use all sorts of moves on this guy, or this girl, I should say. Serenade is good. Serenade is making the opponent drowsy, and that's 97 power or something like that with Airlate. Whiplash always drops defense. That's good with Airlate, especially on like bulky sets. But you know, it's pretty good. Although Body Slam with Airlate is stronger if you want like a no drawback, or Retaliate is actually the strongest physical option outside of Giga Impact and Double Edge, both of which have their own drawbacks. But I mean, Scarf Double Edge Airlate goes crazy, so yeah. Because for example, Scarf Airlate Double Edge, while weaker than Aeroblast, is spammable, so you can get like 2 or 3 kills in a row versus like something that's weak to flying or neutral to flying. Meanwhile, with Aeroblast and Scarf, you have to switch out, which is how those are balanced. You've got other cool small options, you know, like some poisoning stuff like Acid Reflux on the Therian form. Parting Shot I chose to give all of the genies besides Landorus because, so the normal genies I gave it to them because they have Prankster normally, so it just fits their vibe, right? Like they're kind of assholes. And then Enamorus is an asshole as well in the fact that it's the love-hate Pokemon, so that's why I gave them Parting Shot, although I don't see it on Landorus, so I'll have to see if I end up giving it to them or not. But it does fit the other 3. And Baton Pass is also a good minus priority switching option for especially Therian form. But yeah, these guys are super cool, super fun. A couple other small things I could touch on in terms of move pool options and other fun little things they can abuse, but I'm going to leave it off there. I trust that you can, you know, look into the rest of it yourself, look at what the new moves do and all that stuff. Yeah, make sure you drop a comment if you made it to the end. I very much appreciate it if you did, and I'll be back for more videos coming up, y'all. Peace.